Hi everyone, welcome back to Bible in a Year. My name is Natalie and we are on day 73. I am so glad you're here today and I hope you're having a fantastic day. We are going to be reading out of Exodus 23 and then Proverbs chapter 5 and then Acts chapter 14 and then we'll close out the day with Psalm chapter 50 but only verses 16 through 23 today. So let's get started in Exodus chapter 23 and see what's happening. It sounds like we're going to continue on with the ordinances. All right. You shall not spread a false report. Don't join your hand with the wicked to be a malicious witness. You shall not follow a crowd to do evil. You shall not testify in court to side with a multitude to pervert justice. You shall not favor a poor man in his cause. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him again. If you see the donkey of him who hates you fallen down under his burden, don't leave him. You shall surely help him with it. You shall not deny justice to your poor people in their lawsuits. Keep far away from a false charge, and don't kill the innocent and righteous, for I will not justify the wicked. You shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds those who have sight and perverts the words of the righteous. You shall not oppress an alien, for you know the heart of an alien, since you were aliens in the land of Egypt. For 6 years you shall sow your land, and shall gather it in its increase, but the 7th year you shall let it rest, and life follow, that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the animal of the field shall eat. In the same way you shall deal with your vineyard and with your olive grove. 6 days you shall do your work, and on the 7th day you shall rest, that your ox and your donkey may have rest, and the son of your servant and the alien may be refreshed. Be careful to do all things that I have said to you, and don't invoke the name of other gods or even let them be heard out of your mouth. You shall observe a feast to me 3 times a year. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month Abib. For in it you came out of Egypt, and no one shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you sow in the field, and the feast of ingathering, at the end of the year when you gather in your labors out of the field. 3 times in the year all your males shall appear before the Lord Yahweh. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread. The fat of my feast shall not remain all night until the morning. You shall bring the first of the first fruits of your ground into the house of Yahweh your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you by the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to his voice. Don't provoke him, for he will not pardon your disobedience, for my name is in him. But if you indeed listen to his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. For my angel shall go before you and bring you into the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Canaanite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, and I will cut them off. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor follow their practices, but you shall utterly overthrow them and demolish their pillars. You shall serve Yahweh your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from among you. No one will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days, and I will send my terror before you, and I will confuse all the people to whom you come, and I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. I will send the hornet before you, and will drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the animals of the field multiply against you. Little by little I will drive them out from before you, until you have increased and inherit the land. I will set your border from the Red Sea even to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the river, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you. All right, and I have some thoughts, but I'm just going to let you sit on those words, maybe think about them. Proverbs chapter 5. My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Turn your ear to my understanding, that you may maintain direction, that your lips may preserve knowledge. For the lips of an adulteress drip honey. Her mouth is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is as bitter as a wormwood, and as sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to Sheol. She gives no thought to the way of life. Her ways are crooked, and she doesn't know it. Now therefore, my sons, listen to me. Don't depart from my words of my mouth. Remove your way far from her. Don't come near the door of her house, lest you give her honor to others, and your years to the cruel one, lest strangers feast on your wealth, and your labors enrich another man's house. You will groan at your latter end, when your flesh and your body are consumed, and say, how I have hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof. I haven't obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor turned my ear to those who instructed me. I have come to the brink of utter ruin among the gathered assembly. Drink water out of your own cistern, running water out of your own well. Should your spring overflow in the streets, streams of water in the public squares? Let them be for yourself alone, not for strangers with you. Let your spring be blessed. Rejoice in the wife of your youth, a loving doe and a graceful deer. Let her breasts satisfy you at all times. Be captivated always with her love. For why should you, my son, be captivated with an adulteress? Why embrace the bosom of another? For the ways of a man are before Yahweh's eyes. He examines all his paths. The evil deeds of the wicked ensnare him. The cords of his sin hold him firmly. He will die for lack of instruction. In the greatness of his folly, he will go astray. Young love, don't ever let it go. Hold on to it. Acts chapter 14. Oh, we're reading the whole chapter. Here we go. In I I'm not certain how to pronounce this, folks. I'm sorry. In Iconium. We'll go with Iconium. 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 They entered together into the synagogue of the Jews, and so spoke that a great multitude, both of Jews and Greeks, believed. But the disbelieving Jews stirred up and embittered the souls of the Gentiles against the brothers. Therefore they stayed there a long time, speaking boldly in the Lord, who testified to the word of his grace, granting signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the multitude of the city was divided. Part sided with the Jews, and part sided with the apostles. When some of both the Gentiles and the Jews, with their rulers, made a violent attempt to mistreat and stone them, they became aware of it and fled to the cities of Lycaonia, Lystra, Derbe, and the surrounding region. There they preached the good news. At Lystra, a certain man sat, impotent in his feet, a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. He was listening to Paul speaking, who, fastening his eyes on him and seeing that he had faith to be made whole, said with a loud voice, "Stand upright on your feet." He leaped up and walked. When the multitude saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voice, saying in the language of Lycaonia, "The gods have come down to us in the likeness of men." They called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercury, because he was the chief speaker. The priest of Jupiter, whose temple was in front of their city, brought oxen and garlands to the gates, and would have made a sacrifice along with the multitudes. But when the apostles, Barnabas and Paul, heard of it, they tore their clothes and sprang into the multitude, crying out, "Men, why are you doing these things? We are also men of the same nature as you, and bring you good news, that you should turn from these vain things to the living God, who made the sky, the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, who in the generations gone by allowed all nations to walk in their own ways. Yet he didn't leave himself without witness, in that he did good and gave you rains from the sky and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness." Even saying these things, they hardly stopped the multitudes from making a sacrifice to them. But some Jews from Antioch and Iconium came there, and having persuaded the multitudes, they stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city, supposing that he was dead. But as the disciples stood around him, he rose up and entered into the city. On the next day, he went out with Barnabas to Derbe. When they had preached the good news to that city, hold on one second. When they had preached the good news to that city and had made many disciples, they returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch, strengthening the souls of the disciples, exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that through many afflictions we must enter into God's kingdom. When they had appointed elders for them in every assembly and had prayed with fasting, they commended them to the Lord, on whom they had believed. They passed through Pisidia and came to Pamphylia. When they had spoken the word in Perga, they went down to Italia. From there they sailed to Antioch. from where they had been committed to the grace of God for the work which they had fulfilled. When they had arrived and had gathered the assembly together, they reported all the things that God had done with them, and that he had opened a door of faith to the nations. They stayed there with the disciples for a long time. Sorry about the little whatever this is. I did eat something that I have an allergy to. I lost my self-control. And yeah. So Psalm chapter 50. I can't believe they just took Paul out and stoned him. Here they thought he was, Mercury or Jupiter, and had all this faith in him. And then all of a sudden, let's throw some rocks at him. Oh, my goodness, the challenges of sharing one's faith. You never know. It's a roller coaster. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not so great. Psalm chapter 50, verses 16 through 23. All right, here we go. But to the wicked, God says, "What right do you have to declare my statutes, that you have taken my covenant on your lips, since you hate instruction and throw my words behind you? When you saw a thief, you consented with him and have participated with adulterers. You give your mouth to evil, your tongue frames deceit. You sit and speak against your brother. You have done these things, and I kept silent. You thought that I was just like you. I will rebuke you and accuse you in front of your eyes. Now consider this, you who forget God, lest I tear you into pieces and there be no one to deliver. Whoever offers the sacrifice of thanksgiving glorifies me, and prepares his way so that I will show God's salvation to him." That's a pretty harsh one. So this was a very interesting day. We continued on with the ordinances of what God would have for the people in those days. I personally struggle with the treatment of aliens because we here in the United States, there are thoughts on both sides of the fence. I lean towards one side that causes a lot of disagreement. And then there's people on the other side that also causes a lot of disagreement. I tend to believe we are just all people. And I would love to see no borders in this home that we call Earth. But I'm just a girl reading the Bible. And then, so this was a really good day. I hope everybody has a wonderful day today. And please come on back for day 74. And we will see you then. Bye.